to Unsightly Opinions. If you're new, my name's Tamara, and today I'm going to be talking about my eye conditions, my experience with vision loss, and what I can see. I'll be diving into some of the medical side, so if that's something that interests you, stick around. Before I get into my journey, I want to say two things. First, while I am going to talk about some of the medical aspect of my vision loss today, I don't want to be offering anybody medical advice. If you have visual issues, if you're losing vision, please see your healthcare provider, whether that's an optometrist, ophthalmologist, or medical doctor, and get it sorted out with a professional. This is just my experience, so take that for what it is. Second, what I went through and what I see and how I experience the world is individual to me. You could line up 10 people with albinism in the same room and we'd all be able to see different things. So while this is my experience, it won't necessarily apply to somebody else with a different visual condition or even somebody else with the same visual condition. Now, with that preamble out of the way, let's dive in, and I'm going to tell you about the medical side of my vision first. So I have a few conditions going on, and it may give you a better idea of how I can see if I explain what's going on. So the first condition I want to talk about is oculocutaneous albinism. So what that big Latin word means is oculo means eyes, cutaneous means skin, and albinism or albino meaning lacking pigment. Basically, it's what it says on the tin. My eyes and hair and skin lack pigment. What that means is in certain parts of your body where you are supposed to produce melanin, like the back of your eyes as part of your retina to absorb light that comes in, I don't produce that there. It also means that my retina is not fully formed. It means that the photoreceptors, which is the part that actually sees or interprets visual information, the rods and cones. Rods are for light and movement, and cones are for detail and color perception. I don't have as many as somebody with regular or perfect vision. The amount of rods and cones that an average person would have in their peripheral vision is what I was born with in my central vision. So straight in front of me, where the most dense area of detailed vision is, I only have the same amount of rods and cones as somebody else would have in their peripheral vision. So what that's meant for me is I don't have peripheral vision. I've never had vision out to the sides of my eyes. I've never had vision kind of up top. My best vision was kind of in the center and towards my nose. The second thing that happens with albinism is the connection that brings visual information from your retina through the optic nerve all the way back to your occipital lobe, which interprets that visual information, again, doesn't function correctly. The part where it crosses over, so you get part of your visual information from your right side on your left and part of your visual information from your left on your right, it doesn't cross over the correct amount. So what that means for some people with albinism, and I am one of those people, is I don't see with both of my eyes at the same time because my left eye has always been my weaker eye and has never really seen as well as my right. I almost exclusively look out of my right eye. I also have another condition which is common in albinism called strabismus. So it means I have a lazy eye. My left eye turns in towards my nose and my right eye looks relatively straight ahead, and I can't really control that. Going back to my optic nerves for a second, because the crossover didn't really happen, with some people with albinism, you also get a little bit of optic nerve hypoplasia. So it means that the nerve itself doesn't develop fully. So I had that as well as foveal hypoplasia. And your fovea is the area kind of right in the center of your retina, which has the most rods and cones. So both of those things were underdeveloped in me. I also ended up with cataracts early on. So it means that the lenses in the front of my eye are cloudy and don't necessarily allow enough light through. And I have both a family history of cataracts and albinism, so it just kind of compounded into this horrible thing where when I was 7 or 8, they said, yep, she's got cataracts. They're not anything to worry about now, but by the time they were something to worry about, they weren't able to do anything with them. I also have a nystagmus, and that's another really common feature of albinism. So what happens is my eyes shake back and forth. They dart off in strange directions, and I have no control over that. It means that my eyes can't really focus on a specific point. Depending on how tired I am, how bright it is, how stressed I am, if I'm sick, the nystagmus may be better or worse. What all of those medical things mean is that I've always had poor vision. I've never seen 20/20. I've never been even close to 20/20, even with correction. When I was 5 or 6 with my best vision, I was somewhere between 20/200 or 20/400 on the eye chart. So what that means is with my best eye, with as many corrective lenses or glasses or anything else that they could improve my vision with, I could just make out that E at the top of the eye chart. And what that means for reference is what your person with 20/20 vision could see at 200 feet or 400 feet is what I would be able to make out in terms of detail at 20 feet. It can be difficult to try and picture that, so I'm going to try and describe what that looked like for me as a kid. I did have color perception, so I could tell red and green and blue and orange. Sometimes I had trouble with subtle variations in shade, but I could tell what all the colors were. I could see a lot of objects. I could see people. I could see things around me, but I didn't have depth perception and I didn't have detail. And a lot of people seem to think when I say that it means it was blurry. It was never blurry. I just didn't have the same amount of detail someone with perfect vision had. So if I was looking at a person who was 2 feet in front of me, so nice and close, I would probably be able to tell you that there was a person there. I probably wouldn't be able to tell you their gender. I might be able to tell you what color shirt they were wearing. I couldn't tell you if they had an eyes, nose, or mouth. So I couldn't tell you if they were smiling or frowning, or if they had blue eyes or green eyes. That just didn't exist. There was a face, or there was a person, and I could tell there was a person there, but I didn't have the detail to be able to tell what they looked like, or be able to identify one person from the other. So if I wasn't hanging on to my mom in the grocery store, there was more than one instance when I ended up wandering off with the wrong person. So my vision was pretty poor, but I did really well with the vision that I had because I didn't know I was visually impaired as much as I was constantly bumping into things. I was falling down a lot, I was tripping downstairs, going through screen doors. I didn't know anything different. I didn't know I was legally blind. I didn't know I was visually impaired. So I just got on with it. I did what I could with the vision that I had. When I was about 9 or 10, my vision started really changing. The first thing that I noticed is my color vision started changing. My ability to distinguish one color from the next started blending together. I think my brain has always tried to fill in the gaps for me. It's always tried to tell me what color something is or what something is or make its best guess, and it started making more mistakes than it did before. So I couldn't tell blue from green. Red looked more black. Yellow and white usually looked the same. So those colors started blending together and I really didn't understand what was going on. But what that meant in the real world is things that I could visually differentiate before. So a white paper on a cream desk, I couldn't see the paper on the desk anymore. Or if my cane was against a cream colored wall, I couldn't see where my cane was and I'd have to go looking for it by feeling around, and that really alarmed my parents and the EAs at school. And then they started noticing that I needed larger and larger and larger font, and it was taking me more and more and more time to try and read what I could read before. So my vision was slowly deteriorating. I don't believe that I have ever had peripheral vision, so vision out to the sides or above. I don't think I've ever had vision up there, but it started kind of collapsing in. I didn't notice that that's what was happening because for me, my brain just filled in the gaps. I didn't notice that I wasn't able to see further out to the sides, or that it was going away because it was gradual. So the way I describe my peripheral vision is like, what do you see when you look into the back of your head? It isn't there. It's not like I'm looking through a tunnel, it's just gone. That's pretty weird to describe. As that progressed over time, we get to where I am today. And I'm gonna do my best to try and describe it, but it's very strange for even me, and it's very variable. So something that I may be able to make out 1 minute, I wouldn't see the next. And something that I think I see may not even be there. I have a condition that I think I've always had, but I can't be sure, called Charles Bonnet syndrome. So what that means is when your retina and your occipital lobe, or the information coming from your eye to your brain, either isn't there or is very poor, your brain tries to fill in the gaps, but it makes a lot of mistakes. So what I see constantly are like these electric lava lamp blobs in blues, and mostly blue, I think it's blue, and they just kind of float in front of everything I see. And depending on where I am, some things sometimes seem to be moving, but they aren't in reality. So it makes it really difficult to interpret the visual information I can see into something cohesive that makes sense. Where I am today is they don't have a measurement for my vision anymore. I can see light out of my left eye, but that's been changing recently, and I'm not sure if I'm always going to be able to see that. My right eye can still see significantly more. I can see lights in a room, so if I look around, I can probably point out like where the lights are coming from. But if there's a lot of lights, they kind of blend together into a mishmash of bright. I don't really have the right words to try and describe this, and I've never really seen the way other people see, so this is difficult. When I am in a space that's too bright, it basically just looks like bright to me. All of the things in that space disappear. So if I'm outside and I were to try and open my eyes, which I typically couldn't because it's just too bright and too painful, it would just look like bright. There wouldn't be any detail. I wouldn't be able to see a tree. I wouldn't be able to see a post. I wouldn't be able to see patients standing right in front of me. So outside, my functional vision is essentially zero. In spaces that are too dark, I lose the contrast between objects, and I really don't see anything. So something like a movie theater or a dark room or my house at night, I really don't see anything at all. I can't see a shape, I can't see a shadow, I can't see movement. Everything disappears. If I am in a space where there are large objects and I'm relatively close to them, I might get a sense of something being there, but because my brain plays tricks on me, I'm never 100% sure if what I'm sensing is there or the thing I'm seeing, whether it's actually there or whether my brain has put a thing there, or if the thing that I see moving is actually moving or if it's static. It's probably very confusing to try and imagine, but it's very confusing for me. So if I was standing in a well-lit room that's not too bright for me, I'll describe for you what I see when I'm standing in my living room. What I see is I will see the windows and I will see the light coming through the windows. and I may get a sense of something directly in front of me. So like my grand piano, I might be able to kind of get a sense of there being a thing there. My brain will usually fill in spaces I'm really familiar with what things I might be seeing are. So if I'm standing there, I'll go, oh, grand piano. But that's because I'm familiar with the space. If I was in an unfamiliar space, I would have no idea what it was unless I went up to it and touched it. If I am somewhere like in front of a computer screen, I can typically see things that are backlit better than just about anything else. So if I have my face really close to the monitor or really close to what I'm working on, I can see when windows pop up, and I can see like a bright thing against a dark thing. And sometimes that can be really helpful when I'm working on things to try and get a sense of where things are, but it's not really functional most of the time. If you have a pale thing against a pale thing, I'm not going to be able to see it. If you have a dark thing next to a dark thing, I'm not going to be able to differentiate the two dark things next to each other. That'll probably just be a dark thing if I see anything at all. And even within the vision that I have, it's almost like some parts are better than others. So it can take me a while if I'm trying to visually look at something. I don't get the whole sense of it at once. I have to move my head around. I have to really look around and search to try and get a better sense of what it is visually. So it can be incredibly exhausting and really frustrating, and then I'm still left questioning what I saw and trying to figure out what it is. It's pretty weird. It's really weird, and then the amount I see can also change depending on how tired I am or if I'm fatigued or stressed. That can all make it worse. So in short, my vision is really unreliable. It doesn't do me any favors, and as much as I have tried to hide my vision loss my entire life, and I've gotten really good at trying to, quote, fake sighted and do things in a way that is socially acceptable in terms of gesturing and looking at things. And I'll get into a whole other video talking about why and how I look at things, but it's really difficult because I don't see very much most of the time, and if I do see things, a lot of times it doesn't make sense as to what I'm seeing. So until I reach out and touch the thing, I don't know what it is. It's really hard to describe what your vision is when you don't really have a common frame of reference. As much as it's always fascinated me what people can actually see when they have perfect vision, I have never had that perception, so I can only guess to the best of my ability. And yeah, I hope you found it interesting. If you have questions, leave them in the comments down below. I'll do my best to try and answer all of them. I love hearing from you. I would love to hear your vision loss or your vision story. If you're visually impaired or legally blind or totally blind, what is that experience for you? I always like to hear other people's experiences, and I want to share those with other people so we can understand that this was my experience, but it's not how everybody sees. This was a very long rambly video, but I hope you enjoyed it. If you like content like this, please don't forget to subscribe. Hit those bells and buttons. I'm really excited because we're so close to 400. If you'd hit that button, it would really make my day. If you want to keep up to date with what's going on in between uploads, I have an accessible Twitch stream Sunday nights, 7:30 Mountain Standard Time, and most Tuesdays. I also have my other social media accounts linked in the description down below. But that's all for today. Bye for now.